Are you an atmosphere-driven reader? Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today I am going to be recommending some books with an amazing atmosphere. So this is kind of a series, kind of mini series I'm going to be doing, recommending books based on what kind of reader you are, because I believe that every reader has a book that they love and every book is for someone, and it's just that we care about different things. Some people are character driven, some are action driven, some are plot driven, some are atmosphere driven. So this one is the first one I thought of because I know I always notice if a book has an amazing atmosphere. If I just feel transported, if it's very visceral, I just notice it, and that really elevates the book for me. Don't know if that's the most important thing for me, but definitely something I care about. So I thought, why not start with this one? So I have 12 books for you, and atmosphere is such a wide term. It can be unsettling, it can be happy, it can be magical. I only have two categories, let's call it, but it's unsettling and magical / fairy tale, and all the 12 books fall into one or the other, but they're quite fluid, and you know, depending on what you're craving at the moment, they can be perfect for you. I mean, there are some books that are like known for an amazing writing and very visceral atmosphere, but I haven't read them. So these are books that I've read that I thought had amazing atmosphere, but not like all be all end all guide to all books ever written. So we're gonna start with the unsettling, and we're gonna kick off with a thriller. And I think this thriller amazingly just created this atmosphere of uneasiness, discomfort, fear maybe, as a thriller should. And this is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. So this book is kind of a retelling of The Turn of the Screw, which is a classic I've never read. But this book, we follow a nanny who takes this job in like a very remote part of Scotland, I think. She has to take care of two kids that live in this really like savvy, smart house. And I loved how the house was used to create this creepiness, the fact that they're so remote and taken away. The children were great. The house itself, even though it was so modern here, there was like a really creepy forest there. It's just, all of it works, and it's just a really good thriller anyway. But I really love the atmosphere, and I think it's one of the best atmosphere setting thrillers that I've read because I loved how creepy it was. Next up, we have The Year of the Witching by Alex Henderson. So this is actually a horror novel, and we follow Emmanuel, who lives in a cult, or like a very closed off, very religious society. And one day she goes to the forest, which is forbidden, and is met by some witches, and these witches give her mother's old diary, and her mother died at childbirth. So this is Emmanuel's opportunity to get to know her mother. Okay, this book is really good. I enjoyed it so much, especially first 2/3 I would say, because the atmosphere was just amazing. These woods are just so creepy and visceral and disgusting, and you just keep asking yourself, where is it gonna go, what's happening? You just have this feeling of uneasiness, and the fact that it's set in a cult just adds to it, because you're always questioning, what are people gonna do, what's gonna happen? So I love the setting in this book. It was one of my favorite things about it, and I would say that it was a little bit sacrificed towards the latter half of the book, and that's why I stopped enjoying it as much as I did at the beginning. Still, I think it's really worth it. This book is a series, so it's a duology, I think, so there's going to be a second one. And just, I don't know, if you like witches, if you like cults, if you like creepy things, like, this is a horror, so it's a bit graphic. I would definitely pick this one up. Next book we're gonna follow with the fantasy genre, and it's The House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. Nailed that. In this book is a retelling of 12 dancing princesses, and it's set at this really dilapidating little town. It's like a coastal town, and it's really small, and it's set in this mansion that's just so creepy. And there are 12 sisters, and they just keep dying for some reason, and it's creepy. There are like weird things happening, and it's just the fact that it's set near the sea is used so well, I think. I mean, there are like sea vibes everywhere, and I can just feel tentacles like crawling over me when I think about this book. So if you really like that kind of creepy, maybe a little bit gothic, although it is a fantasy novel, that creepy feeling, I think this one's perfect for that. And it's just a really good like mystery story, a little bit very light horror, I would say, and I really enjoyed it. Now we're gonna switch genres again. I don't actually know if this one's a thriller or a horror novel, but this book is Lakewood by Megan Giddings, and this book we follow our young protagonist whose grandmother has passed away, and unfortunately her grandmother was kind of like her primary caregiver because her mother has a disability and is not able to take care of the main character. And now that her grandmother is dead, the main character is responsible for her mother, and she is struggling financially, so she decides to join this research program, and she has to move to this place called Blackwood where they do a lot of creepy experiments. And what this one is about, it's about a black woman as well, so it's about that experience and just how people are discarded by society and not given justice. And overall this book was super creepy. I think it was a horror. It has some body gore, and the experience was just so visceral in terms of us being stuck there with the main character while really unspeakable things are done to her, and how far she's willing to take it, and just the creepiness of the town itself. Like, who knows, who doesn't know, because they can't really tell people about this research program, but like some people in the village are very weird and some aren't. It's like a really weird place anyway, because it's basically just white people. It's really good in terms of setting that feeling of uneasiness and just like uncomfortableness, and you just kind of want to be like, get out, just get out of this creepy town, this creepy firm, this creepy research, just get out. Really good if you're craving some horror. And the last book in the creepiness, uneasiness genre would be The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This one is by a Native American author, and this book we follow this group of like young Native Americans. Something happened in their past and now they're being hunted by a ghost of a deer, and it's really creepy. It's super weird. The whole book has an amazing feeling to it because one of the characters is kind of losing their sanity, and just all of them are experiencing these outrageously gruesome but also just supernatural maybe and really super strange things, and you can see the sanity slipping away, and it's really well done. It just takes you of the characters there, and you probably won't like any of the characters because they suck. But that's not the point. The point is just to be so immersed in the story. The writing was a little bit confusing, and the whole book, especially in the beginning, you're going to be a bit confused with the writing because it jumps around so much, and you'll just be like, just chilling 1 second, then you're on a motorcycle the next second, then you're like a house in the next second. But it added to that creepiness and that uneasiness and that just disorientation that the characters were feeling. So I don't think it's a bad thing. It was a little bit confusing because it definitely added to the atmosphere. Alright, now we're gonna jump into the magical / fairy tale feeling. So these are happy, magical, fuzzy things and just whimsy. I love whimsy in my stories, and I love being set in this whimsy and really like feel it. And the first book I want to talk about is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. So this book is Russian folklore inspired, and it's set in old Russia, and we follow Vasya, who can see the spirits and kind of the emblems of the old religion, and her whole world gets turned upside down when her new stepmother comes into town, who can also see these spirits, but she thinks they're demons, and she brings a priest with her, and her whole community just kind of has to abandon the old faith. So that's what the book is about, but it's set in old Russia in the middle of the winter. It's like not even Moscow, but like deeper into Russia, so it's always cold, and you just feel the winter, the snow, the hunger, the uneasiness so much. And then once you get to the magical parts of the story, you just feel like you're transported into this magical forest with these magical characters and magical creatures. Just absolutely wonderful. You just probably want to read this in winter because you want to snuggle up under your blanket, put some candles on, put an ambient room with like winter themes, and just get lost in this story because atmosphere, amazing. Chef's Keith, just don't even need to go visit Russia because you're literally gonna visit it right here. I love this book so much. I think it was so well written, and I can't wait to get to the sequels. Next up we have Uprooted by Naomi Novik. So this book is actually written by a Polish descendant author, and I'm Polish if you don't know, so I was really looking forward to this book. And it's also set in like an Eastern European inspired world. We follow Agnieszka, who lives in this village where once every couple of years, the dragon, which is like a very potent magician, comes down and takes one of the girls to go live in this tower with him. And what do you know? She gets chosen. And it's a story full of wonder, magic. Again, you can feel the magic just so viscerally. I really love this one. I think maybe it's slightly less atmospherical than Bear and the Nightingale, but still, I really loved it. It's has a bit more plot and action, if that's something you're into. Not just vibes, but like action as well. But vibes are also really good. And I read both of these for my Reading Eastern European inspired fantasy video, if you want to check it out. This one, really, really good. And it has so much aspects of my own culture, which I just really, really love. Next book we have is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. So in this book we follow our main character who lives in this small cabin near this all-boys school and just like in the middle of the woods and the mountains, and she lives there with her mother. It's set in modern time, but it does not have those vibes. So she lives there with her mother, and her whole family has some history of witchcraft. One day they get snowed in, so she gets stuck in her house without her mom, and she goes to this Winterwood, which is like these woods, but everyone knows not to go there after dark. Our main character goes there during the day, don't worry, and she finds a boy that was believed to be dead, just buried in the snow, but he's alive, and she takes care of him. So this book has immaculate just vibes because it's isolated. You're snowed in into this small cabin. There are woods, very small cast of characters, and all of that makes it a very magical experience. I love the experience of the woods and how that was used, and just the cabin itself. There's a lake, like it's very atmospheric, and this book has a bit of a mystery element to it as well. It's really good. I would really recommend it. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Next up we have Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So this is a fantasy book, and we follow Lazar Strange, who's an orphan, and he's been brought up in this library, and he's always been a dreamer, and he dreams of the city of Weep, which is a lost city which used to exist but not anymore. And it kind of goes from there. I don't want to spoil it, but it's really a good, well-written story, and just the writing is magical and wonderful. But the setting is just so, you're just there, you believe with Laszlo, you're a dreamer as well, you're transported into this dreamland that just doesn't want to let you go, and it's wonderfully magical. I absolutely love this story. I cannot wait for the sequel, and it's just so well written. The atmosphere, again, amazing. Next book is The 10,000 Daughters of January by Alex E. Harrow. This is an amazing book. It's super well written, and we follow our main character whose father is kind of an explorer, so he goes away a lot, and he leaves her with his boss basically, and he's a very high society man, but she's a mixed race lady. This is like Victorian times kind of, so she has to deal with the pressures of society. And then one day she discovers these doors to different magical worlds, and it's basically a portal fantasy. But I love it so much. It's just so well written. The fact that you get to explore different worlds has always been something that really appeals to me. I love portal fantasies, but this one's super well written, really touching, really beautiful, and the worlds are magical, really good at setting the scene. Like I said, the writing has a lot to do with it because it's quite whimsical and beautiful. And just something about this, if I could just be transported there and travel different worlds and explore, I'd be happy. Next up we have a book that I didn't personally love, but it has immaculate atmosphere, setting, and vibes. So this is Once Upon a River by Diane Satterfield, I believe. So in this book we follow this small tavern basically, and this tavern on the river in London, and it's set in past, I don't know, it's historical fiction. How do I even say this? I mean, this book has a weird plot, but basically in this small tavern there's this family that lives there, and one day this man comes with this girl that he got from the river, and basically everyone thought she was as good as dead, a corpse when she came in, but then they bring her back to life and she lives, and it's really strange. It's super strange. It has vibes for days. I didn't dislike the book. I did really like it, but it was a bit strange. A lot happened, and you're like, what even is this book about? Because it's just vibes. It's vibes. It's magical tavern with storytellers in it, set in London. The river has a big role in the story. It just makes you feel like this old grandma is telling you a tale of these random stories that just come together fluidly. I don't know, very strange book, but atmosphere impeccable. I felt transported every time I picked up the audiobook, but the plot not the strongest. The atmosphere, the vibes, the strongest. Isn't there like a meme, like nothing but vibes here or something like that? And the last book is not a book but a series, and I didn't really choose one, it's just the whole series. It's vibes and it's atmosphere, and this is the Wayward Children series by Shauna Maguire. So this one is another portal fantasy in our real world doors that can be found by children when they're very young, and they usually go to a world perfect for them. And this is about those children coming back to the real world after being in the portal world and how that impacted them basically. And there's this house for wayward children where they can come together and heal. So this book has, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 books now, but they're all very short, maybe around 100 pages, and they tell stories of different worlds, and that's what I like about it. Every book is usually following different characters set in a different world, and the worlds just range so much. There are like nonsensical worlds when nothing makes sense, it's just magic vibes and all that, and there are logical worlds which are just super logical, like to a T. Everything has a rule and it has to be stick to, and every book is different. My favorite one was the second one, Down Among Sticks and Bones, I think, and another one that follows those characters, but I don't remember the name of it. You don't have to read it in the order. I would just read the synopsis and see which world appeals to you the most. I did read all of them in order. I didn't read the newest one yet. You don't have to, like, just choose the one that feels the vibe, that will scratch that itch for atmosphere. I think the author is really good at, even if her plot is not super strong in these books, the world is just always amazing, always really well thought out, and always just so magical, or not if it's a logical one, but just always really transformative, and really you feel transported there. And I feel like depending on which world and kind of story you enjoy, you're gonna enjoy the different books on different levels, because some of them I love, some of them I'm really like meh. Alright, well, these are all the books I wanted to recommend to you guys. Let me know if atmosphere is something that you care about when you read the books. For me, it is a really big and important part. Other recommendations I want to do is like character-driven books, plot-driven books, but I can't really think of any other factor that's super important. So please let me know, what's the most important thing to you in a story? If that's done well, you can overlook everything else. What kind of driven reader are you? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate if you could comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!